Well, this is not a video I would have seen myself making. Boy, did I botch those "where do you see yourself in 5 years" questions. Still, I suppose that goes to the credit of whom we're discussing, at least partially. So join me, won't you, as we discuss a character who has had one of the largest uphill climbs to face, became a massive fan favorite to the point that Disney continues to use them long after their initial appeal is worn out, and how the latest bit of news about them is associated with transphobia. Enjoy. Okay, so we've talked about Star Wars and the massive issues it faces as an IP, being that it just refuses to let certain things go and try other stuff because the powers that be are just interested in what's guaranteed to sell. It seems as though we might be taking baby steps in the right direction with this High Republic stuff, but at this point it's too soon to say. Regardless, today I want to talk about a specific symptom of this problem by the name of Darth Maul syndrome. So aptly named because it kept bringing that Sith Lord back for stuff just because he was so damn cool. I mean, let's face it, when you have an entrance like this, you're bound to leave an impression. So yeah, Darth Maul was sprinkled on a lot of supplementary material throughout the 2000s, like banana peppers on a turkey sub. Comics, TV shows, spin-off movies that never should have been made, you name it, Maul was in it, and most likely being the selling point of it, or a fun little surprise. The trouble is, the more that they did this, the more that he just kinda lost his initial appeal. Even if the stuff he's in is good, you can't help but feel that he's out of place in it. I mean, it's not uncommon for a character who was designed to be a boss fight being given extra dimensions. I mean, just look at Anakin. However, that doesn't really attribute to Maul, as, unlike Anakin, he wasn't created with his backstory in mind. That all came later. So while some of the stuff we've gotten with Maul over the years is good, it's not exactly necessary. And this is coming from a major prequel apologist. Oh wow, Darth Maul had a brother? Fucking amazing spin on things there, Filoni. Sadly, while this is the most prevalent case of this syndrome, Maul isn't the most egregious case. That honor goes to Ahsoka Tano, a character who debuted in the Clone Wars, became a fan favorite despite the intense initial backlash against her, and whose creator just refuses to let her story just end. At this point, it's easy for some folks to forget that a lot of people fucking hated Ahsoka when she was introduced as Anakin's Padawan. Hardly surprised given the fandom we're talking about. Seems like all you have to do to get these man-children's panties in a munch is to be a capable woman in the main cast. The more things change, the more things stay the same and whatnot. It probably wasn't helped when she was seen holding her own against General Grievous. Nevertheless, whether she was helped along by the show's consistent quality or prevailed through her own gumption, Ahsoka won the hearts and minds of most of the general audience. She was fun, capable, willing, and able to sass Anakin, which is always a good time, and very capable of thinking for herself and not just doing what her masters or the council instructs. As the show went on, the general opinion of Ahsoka rose higher and higher, but the question remained: what happened to Ahsoka during Revenge of the Sith? Because at this point, people actually cared about Ahsoka and wanted to know what happened to her by this point of the story. For the longest time, the closest thing we got to an answer for that was
the wrong Jedi.
The Jedi Order decided to brand Ahsoka a traitor and hunt her down for a crime she didn't commit with no evidence, and then pulling that it was all just a test shit when Anakin cleared her name. Of course, Ahsoka doesn't buy any of that shit, loses her faith in the Jedi, and just fucking leaves. I'll level with y'all. Ahsoka just walking away from the Jedi Order like that was one of the greatest moments in Star Wars fucking ever. The scene itself is just extremely well done, and serves as another nail in the coffin of Anakin's ever-dwindling trust in the Jedi. In all honesty, if this was the last we ever saw of Ahsoka, it would have been enough. Sure, it would have sucked that we never saw her again, but considering that the Clone Wars is a midquel and she was literally created for it, it makes sense that Ahsoka's stories would end with the series. It's like poetry, it rhymes. Of course, for the vast majority of Star Wars fans who are as acquainted with the concept of self-control as Kylo Ren is, this wasn't enough for them, and they spent years asking the question, what happened to Ahsoka? Eventually, we did get an answer to that question in the form of Star Wars Rebels, led by Clone Wars creator Dave Filoni, the same guy who keeps cramming Darth Maul into places that he shouldn't be. By the end of the first season, we see Ahsoka all grown up as they hype up a confrontation between her and Darth Vader. And of course, they continue to hype that up throughout the second season because we can't use up people's only reason to watch Rebels too soon. Seriously, Rebels just threw in fan favorite after fan favorite because they couldn't rely on the milquetoast main cast to carry their own damn show. And so, in the season 2 finale, we finally see Ahsoka clash with Vader, and honestly, it's fantastic. It plays out as well as any confrontation between these two could possibly turn out, and really feels like the culmination of both their relationship and indeed Ahsoka as a character. Like many things from the Clone Wars, Ahsoka's story is one that ends in tragedy. As I said, it would have been fine if we never got to see her after that point in the Clone Wars, but I'd be lying if I said this wasn't a fantastic way to end her story. And then they fucked it up. Come the season 4 finale of Rebels, and after having to deal with Thrawn, Maul, and some shit involving the Darksaber, they decided to end the entire series by introducing time travel solely as an excuse to save Ahsoka from her fight with Vader. She didn't die and is in fact living as a sagely Force Gandalf or something. They had the best possible ending they had for this character, and then they fucking did away with it because they wanted the series finale to be special somehow, and this was the only way they could think to do it. Rebels has so little faith in its own story that it pulled out legacy character after legacy character to try to get people to watch it. Like, it got so bad that they used up the inevitable Maul Kenobi rematch on Tatooine. Like, fucking hell, Filoni! That rematch was like the only thing that could justify the Kenobi series that people wanted. Now what are they gonna do, you selfish prick? Of course, these days, who the fuck cares about Rebels anymore? It's all about that final season of Clone Wars where Ahsoka faces off against Maul, for some reason. Yeah, that emotional, impactful exit she had in the show's original run, that's even more unsubstantial now. She's back and now sporting 2 blue lightsabers, because fuck any colors that aren't blue and red, am I right? Oh, and not only did Ahsoka survive past Rebels, but according to Filoni, she may very well have survived all the way up to the new trilogy, despite being heard amongst the many dead Jedi and Rise of Skywalker's climax. Dave Filoni made the point to suggest that this doesn't confirm that Ahsoka is dead. Sure, this was just in the form of a tweet, which is hardly canon, but it's evident just how much placating Filoni is actually doing. I mean, never mind the fact that Ahsoka being a Force ghost pretty much negates any disagreement fans might have about her being dead. Filoni knows that people like Ahsoka, so suggesting that she isn't dead will make his fanbase scream themselves. Filoni is very proud of Ahsoka and just doesn't want to bring her story to a close. This presents a problem because we are past the point of Ahsoka ever having the emotional or narrative agency she used to have, and any appearance by her is just going to be unsubstantial fan service like Vader or Maul have become. Sure, it's what the fans want, but fans are fucking stupid, and whenever Disney actually listens to the fans, we get something that's Reylo levels of fucking disgusting. Speaking of which, by the time of this video, news is broken out that Ahsoka would be making an appearance in The Mandalorian. This is hardly surprising, as the first season pretty much used up everything that made the show unique, with Baby Yoda and the galaxy's hottest butch Cara Dune, so they need legacy characters to keep everyone watching. I was expecting them to bring back what's-his-face as Han Solo, or maybe cast Sebastian Stan to play young Luke or something, but them bringing out Ahsoka checks out just as well as any other bullshit. Now, them bringing Ahsoka back isn't the problem in and of itself. It's that we are supposedly seeing the first ever live-action appearance of Ahsoka, played by Rosario Dawson, whom at the time of this video is currently facing a lawsuit for abusing and assaulting a trans man under her and her family's employ. A handyman who had been working for them for years came out to them about his transition, and his gender was often disregarded and met with violence by Dawson and her mother. As a trans person myself, I found this revelation to be very fucking abhorrent, and I wasn't alone. This wasn't something that fans of Ahsoka ignored. When they saw this news, they were livid at the idea that one of their favorite characters would be portrayed by a transphobe. Of course, you might say, but Dawson hasn't been found guilty about any of this. These could just be baseless accusations. I mean, sure, maybe, but the fact that Disney decided to cast someone who is already facing these serious allegations seems to show where their head is at. And if this goes through, then Ahsoka fans are suddenly going to be met with a portrayal of this character that they're at risk to be extremely ashamed of. None of this would have happened if Ahsoka's story was just allowed to end. This isn't a very popular opinion by most consumers, but it's important to know when to let a story just finish. There comes a point where a character just has nothing more left to them that warrants a future appearance. The comic book industry has made it a business model to create characters that will just run on a treadmill for all eternity, but Star Wars isn't the MCU, and it shouldn't be. Not everything needs sequels or spin-off series, not every franchise needs to be going in perpetuity, and not every character needs to keep making appearances long after their agency has been wrung out. I like Ahsoka, but I'm past the point of ever caring about her again, all because the creator just refuses to let her go. Dave, buddy, just let your child rest. She's more than earned it.